What's up, YouTube? Wardo here. So, with it being Good Friday, I wanted to take a minute, real quick. Currently in my truck, and I wanted to talk about, real quick, I always try to think about this on Good Friday, and I don't know if you guys have ever really thought about it, but if not, I wanted to talk a little bit about what today means, and actually what happened today in sort of the physical sense, what Christ went through when he was actually crucified. So there's a lot of people that discuss this. I read a PhD associate professor from ASU in the biology department talking about Christ's crucifixion and probably what he went through. We don't know exactly. We have biblical references and other scientific evidence of crucifixion, because it wasn't just Christ that was crucified. It was definitely a form of punishment that was carried out a lot. So with that being said, let's start with Christ being who he was physically. He was in his 30s. He was a carpenter by trade, so a physical job. So between that and the fact that through his public ministry he was traveling a lot on foot, so let's just assume that he was in decent shape. He was a young guy in very good shape, and let's start there. And the Bible tells us on the night before he died, they went to a garden called Gethsemane, and there he began to pray. And Luke's gospel tells us that his sweat became mixed with blood. This is actually a medical condition called hemorrhagiosis, which is where the capillaries surrounding your sweat glands actually burst, and that's what causes the blood to mix with the sweat as it comes out. One of these side effects of this condition is very tender skin where it happens. So we can know that Jesus, his skin became tender through this. In Luke's gospel it tells us it was through much anguish that happened, and medically speaking, that's exactly what causes hemorrhagiosis, is pain or anguish severely. So after that happens, he goes to Pilate, then to Herod, then back to Pilate again, which scholars will say that's about a 2.5 mile walk, late in the evening, no sleep. So that's on top of the tender skin. Now he's walked 2.5 miles, sleep deprived. Pilate ordered him to be scourged or whipped. Typically that was done. They strip all your clothes off and they whip you from about your neck down to your knee. And the weapon of choice was the cat of 9 tails. There's pieces of leather with steel or stone balls at the end of it for bruising, and then on other pieces there are sheep's bone, and that'll dig into your skin and rip out chunks of flesh and muscle, even as bad as exposing pieces of bone. So he went through that extreme amount of blood loss. We can assume that he probably, with the amount of blood loss just through that alone, probably put him in a mild shock and severe thirst. The body's reaction to that much blood loss is thirst. One of them. So now he's thirsty, in shock, exhausted. The rest of his skin is tender from the hemorrhagiosis. Then they clothed him in a garment to act as a clot to stop the bleeding, and then they nailed a crown of thorns on his head, which caused more bleeding. It almost inevitably struck. There's facial nerves. There's nerves that run kind of here and through the back of the neck right here. It inevitably struck one of the facial nerves and causing severe pain to run down the face and the neck. So after that, his clothing was then ripped off and caused more bleeding. There's multiple theories. There's people see a crucifix that's a shape of a T, like a plus sign or a T, what we think of as a crucifix, but there's probability that he was crucified more on a T-shaped cross. So he had to carry the horizontal piece, which after all he's went through, his body is most certainly in shock, and that would explain why Simon the Cyrene had to help carry it. Just physical shock. So when he got there, they had to, of course, nail him. Everybody knows the nailing to the cross. But these were 7 to 9 inch long nails, and they weren't driven through the palm of the hand, right here, that's often depicted. That was probably driven more into the wrist area here, where there's more bones, because the weight, as they hoist him up, the weight of his body would pull through the hand meat. So they probably nailed him through the bones, which is much stronger. Again, hitting nerves, causing searing pain up through his shoulders through the whole process. So as they did that, they would have hoisted him up, breaking or dislocating both shoulders. The full weight of his body is on his wrists, and as he went up, it almost certainly dislocated his shoulders. Again, nerve pain in the face from the crown of thorns, back raw and dirty from being nailed to the cross from all the scourging. Okay, now they had to nail his feet in. So they bent his knees at a 90-degree angle and nailed his feet into the cross. Same nails. Again, there's nerves running through your feet. So now he has nerve pain through his arms, dislocated shoulders, nerve pain through his feet, up through his legs, nerve pain through his face, extreme blood loss. And so, with that being said, the typical death of crucifixion, the way somebody would die, is either suffocation or just sheer stress on the heart causing cardiac arrest or a myocardial infarction. So the reason that is your diaphragm, which is a muscle that separates your lower abdomen from your chest. That thin membrane muscle, it expands, it lowers when you breathe in. That allows your lungs to fill with oxygen, and as you exhale, your diaphragm pushes up to release the air. So in the crucifixion, all his weight hanging, it caused the diaphragm to drop, so Jesus could breathe in, but he could not exhale. And unless he put all of his weight on that nail running through his feet to push himself up to get an exhale out. And we know that to speak is exhaling, it's air crossing the vocal cords, and we know that he at least spoke 7 times through the gospel while he was hanging in the cross, one of which ironically was to forgive them for what they were doing. So with that being said, it is more than likely that the fact that Jesus was already dead, before they would break the feet to let them hang, we can assume that he probably died of a heart attack ultimately. All the undue CO2 and that messing with the heart caused probably a severe heart attack. That's a lot. That's a lot to go through. Crucifixion was known as one of the most gruesome, if not the most gruesome death, and reserved for the most heinous criminals. Actually, the word excruciating is derived from crucifixion. So, everything we read and everything we know of Jesus knows that he didn't do anything. He was an innocent man, and we nailed him to the cross and put him through what we put him through as an innocent man. Could you imagine having done nothing wrong and have to go through that? I mean, I don't even like to get my tooth pulled without a little Novocaine. I couldn't imagine going through that. And the fact that he did that for me, that was my punishment for the sin that I commit. That's your punishment for the sin that you commit. That's the just punishment. But instead he acted in love and removed the effects of our sin. All he asks for us is is to love him and to worship him. So accept him into our lives. It's a seriously more than fair offer, if you're asking me. So I always like to think about that on Good Friday. Of course, you think I tend to think about what he's done for us other days, but to really get into the not so pleasant side of what he went through for you and for me when he did nothing wrong is definitely something worth evaluating. So just say a prayer of thanks today. Say a prayer of contrition if you're thinking about it. Say you're sorry. Maybe ask him into your life. Maybe this is the time of year that you can make amends, that you can make changes, and when you get down, just think of what he did for you. So that's all I got today, guys. Jesus loves you, certainly. I love you guys, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.